Tar Meher Baba Ki Jai. So, Baba ji, why don't you read How to Love God?
Yes. Avatar Meher Baba ki jai. How to love God. To love God in the most practical way is to love our fellow beings. If we feel for others in the same way as we feel for our own dear ones, we love God. If instead of seeing faults in others, we look within ourselves, we are loving God. If instead of robbing others to help ourselves, we rob ourselves to help others, we are loving God. If we suffer in the suffering of others and feel happy in the happiness of others, we are loving God. If instead of worrying over our own misfortunes, we think ourselves more fortunate than many, many others, we are loving God. If we endure our lot with patience and contentment, accepting it as His will, we are loving God. If we understand and feel that the greatest act of devotion and worship to God is not to hurt or harm any of His beings, we are loving God. To love God as He ought to be loved, we must live for God and die for God, knowing that the goal of all life is to love God and find Him as our own biggest self.
Tar Meher Baba Ki Jai. Thank
Atar
you.
Meher Baba ki jai. Karthik, before we proceed,
Sure.
this I am so grateful to you for putting this every time. But sometimes I get insights. So 2 and 4 is something which strikes out to me today when we read. So if instead of robbing others to help ourselves, we rob ourselves to help others, we are loving God. So I mean that's a lot of meaning in that. I mean, it can, as you said yesterday, it can be contextual or individualized, but there's a lot of meaning into that. And if instead of worrying over our own misfortunes, we think of ourselves more fortunate than many others, we are loving God. So that gives us a sort of a contentment in whatever situation we are, predicament or challenge. It might be financial, health, whatever. So it's a I mean, it again says that it is a sort of a benediction from God. I mean, these are thoughts which came to my mind, and I couldn't resist but sharing.
Yes,
Very
thanks
nice.
for the sharing. Nice
Thanks
one.
for the sharing. But I always wonder what the meaning of robbing ourselves is. So, use of the word. I mean, it obviously means it's an extension of making others happy. It's a sense of sacrifice of and sharing and so on. But why
No,
the
no.
word rob?
Yes, yes, I have an idea on that. Hey, our
Mhm,
ego is always so steadfast. So we have
mhm,
to overcome that by at least once in a while do something beyond that or without the effect of the ego. That is the
ego.
sort of robbing. So even though you don't feel like doing it, try to do it in the way, any way possible to help others. So your
Mm,
mental makeup may not accept your parting of something from your purse or your living to
mm.
somebody, but do it and forget about it. That is, and don't allow your ego to supervise that. That is the raw board. I have thought about that, and that's how I have said not. It must be the
Interpreted.
way like that. Yes,
Uh, Great.
That's
Thanks, Mamaji. Great. Yeah, it links to the real sacrifice which you mentioned, and also in my wish there is something that treat even others who are not related to you as your own dear ones. It says in
yes,
this one only. So if we feel for others in the same way as we feel for our
yes,
near dear ones. So I mean, you have to be, as Mamaji put it. I mean, try to help others. You know, uh, the icon which comes to my mind is Mother Teresa, or so many other people who devote their lives for helping others, or let's say, uh, making lives better for others. This is something which has got a lot of message. I mean, potential uh, in this. I mean, Jai Baba. Thank you.
Yeah, perfect. So this is what you're talking about.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I don't know. This is telepathy. I was seeing this slide only yesterday. Yesterday.
So, so I'm convinced that I'm not in the first one.
Yes,
I'm in the second. I'm in the second for sure, is what
yes,
I feel personally. And I think that applies for all of us, at
Yes.
least the three of us right now. I don't think we are in initiate.
Oh,
Okay.
so
So,
we are maybe between Hava and Seeker somewhere, or Seeker and Initiate
seek
somewhere.
and initiate. Yes, correct. So
So
I think Hava and Seek, so we may be also different times of the day changing that status.
yes, yes,
Right. Yeah. Anyway,
like
interesting.
like a seesaw again.
Yes, yes, yes. Okay.
Thank,
So
thank.
let's go back to what we were going to focus on this morning, which is we are going to read Manifesting. Uh, we finished last time uh, with a chapter where we read about Yoga Sanskaras, and then we read this last chapter, Infinite Knowledge, and how knowledge is used by the avatar. He has infinite consciousness and how he uses the knowledge aspect in manifestation. So, with that, let's go to the next chapter, that is the drama of creation. Avatar Meher Baba ki jai. The drama of creation. The drama of creation is the pull between infinite consciousness and infinite unconsciousness. It is in this drama that we find ourselves caught in between. On the stage of the drama of creation, everyone and everything play their roles as actors, not knowing that they are actors. They are unconscious and in ignorance, and they become one with their role, and therefore they exhibit only ignorance, doing everything unconsciously. Infinite consciousness descends into infinite unconsciousness in the form of the avatar. I repeat, infinite consciousness descends into infinite unconsciousness in the form of the avatar. The avatar becomes everything and everyone, but he knows this, and therefore, while he is in the creation of infinite unconsciousness, he expresses knowledge. I repeat, the avatar becomes everyone and everything, but he knows this, and therefore, while he is in the creation of infinite unconsciousness, he expresses knowledge with a K, with a capital. This very expression of big K knowledge, that is infinitely conscious, diminishes ignorance at every level of consciousness in the infinite unconsciousness. Thus, there is a vast difference between the avatar's becoming of everyone and everything and the becoming of everything and everyone as everything and everyone. The avatar is infinite consciousness, and when he becomes everyone and everything, infinite consciousness merges with its own infinite unconsciousness. But when everything and everyone are becoming everything and everyone, the consciousness of everything and everyone is being absorbed by the infinite unconsciousness. I will pause here
Very
as
tongue twisting.
yeah, tongue twisting. But I think it's very, very, I think if we just go to this uh, para which we have, deciphered and split multiple times. I think this is an extension of this, right? This one.
This is a
I
better explanation because that one is too much becoming everything and
confusing,
everyone.
confusing. Yeah, confusing,
So this
confusing.
one is
Right?
state 2A and 2B, and state
Clear.
2B becomes, and it makes it very simple.
Correct. Correct. That's what I was reminded of. So this, by the way, is beams.
Yes.
Uh, beams on the avatar. Yeah. So here, all that happens here, what Baba explains is EAIC comes down. So was taken up. So again, the only word is taken up. Maybe it's comes down is better, or some other word could have been better. But basically, the first man to realize God as one indivisible and eternal truth was taken up into this realization by EAIC, Eternal Avataric Infinite Consciousness. What does that mean? Infinite consciousness descends or takes on or is becoming infinite unconsciousness so that it can become everyone and everything. So what's missing in this chapter is the fact that everything and everyone becomes the avatar, or rather the avatar becomes everyone and everything. So all the effort in the last two paragraphs have been in underlining the fact that everything and everyone is the avatar. So when Baba says I am in everyone and everything, he means it, and that's what we are taking away from this chapter. Any other comments?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Baba. Yeah,
Jay?
Baba. I think that see, Avatar is only coming after the most original will, number one, and you have to also carefully remember or understand that everything from the whim and consciousness, which is infinite consciousness, infinite unconsciousness, are part of the divine dream. Because the only reality is God is. When you read God Speaks, it will talk about the most original state of God, which is the Paratpar Parabrahma state, and the final state of God, which is basically the original state of God, which is Paramatma, who is infinite consciousness, who realizes that he is God, Paramatma. And the whim itself is part of the divine dream. So, infinite consciousness, infinite unconsciousness are all part of this dream. So this is much more of a play, and the avatar only comes after the whim. And we know that Avatar is the first drop soul which became God realized without the help of a physical master. It was the descent of the eternal avataric infinite consciousness, state 2B, which made that first human soul to become God realized and be designated as Avatar, who comes again and again as Paramatma, as so basically the infinite consciousness uses that drop soul form and descends onto earth, and the avatar becomes everything and everyone during his tenure on during his physical tenure. Jai Baba.
Yeah, perfect. The last line is what this chapter, I think, is about. Everything
Where?
and
One,
everyone. Yeah.
I,
one
Babaji,
point
then
which
Ashok. Yeah.
yeah.
here the whole gamut of all the drop souls around the avatar, they are all in different stages of consciousness, but essentially unconscious. So the avatar becomes one with all the souls. The purport for that is probably that he acts or he behaves like unconscious, even though he is super conscious. So that how do we see this with all this jargon words for definition? So Baba feels the common man in every aspect. And uh, he is so compassionate. He feels like that. He acts like that. He cries. He laughs. He does everything that is done by the whole unconscious group of souls. And by this process, in the background being the superconscious being or the avatar, he acts this and then tries to lift the other souls gradually over a period of, say, uh, that period you cannot define at all. But that is what comes to my mind here. So, how do we take up this? So, what is the how can a conscious being becomes unconscious is a difficult thing to understand. So, this is how I look at that. Hey, Baba. Hope I made myself clear.
I think I understand your question or comment. All I'm saying is he is not acting, he has become. So let's not, because act we associate with perfect master. With the avatar, he has become. So unconscious, he has become unconscious. But so I think I understand your semantic issue. So what do you mean by taken in by unconscious when he is actually in operating as everyone and everything and doing all the things that he's doing? Anybody wants to react to that?
Jay Baba, first I'll just, there's a very nice word which Mamaji used, lift. So if you put it into a analogy of a seesaw, it might be very simplistic, but to understand the purport of the what he read is that supposing we are on 0 and Baba is on 10, he's on the other side of the seesaw. I mean, he's the highest of the high, but he descends, or he takes the seesaw on the other side so that he can lift us to the level of, you know, from 0 towards 10, 0 to 5, 5 to 10, like that. He gives the push or the trigger, if I may say, and in that maybe that to lift us from uh, infinite unconsciousness to infinite consciousness. Would that be the right way of, or one of the ways of understanding this? So that's my question.
Okay, so you got to the second question. We are still to answer Mamaji's question. So, anybody wants to explain how consciousness can come down to unconscious? Come on, why don't you try to take that on?
Uh, Jai Baba, so I think that, look, infinite consciousness, which comes down as the avatar every 700 to 1400 years because of spiritual entropy on planet Earth in terms of humanity, right? So we know why the avatar comes down when there is a lot of negativity and so on, right? Number one. Number two is to reinforce to the human population that there is something called God. Of course, God is just a terminology. I call it godliness or godhood, our divinity. That the avatar comes down to first of all and becomes like an ordinary human being. See, look, Baba always has infinite knowledge, infinite power, infinite bliss, but he doesn't use them. The knowledge, he has the knowledge, infinite knowledge, but he has to become like an ordinary human being to be on the same level as an ordinary human being, because then only a human being will be able to relate to it. For example, if you are with a couple of children, you have to come down to the level of
Go down to
children
their level.
so that they will be able to, kind of, they will be able to relate to you. Also, Baba is not unconscious. Baba is veiled when he is born, and he's unveiled through the five perfect masters, right? And then we know Upasni Maharaj in 1921 told him, my work is done. You're the avatar. You can know now. You can go now. So now the next part of the whole divine play is during this current incarnation of the avatar. So Baba went through two accidents. He broke his bones and all that stuff. And he was going through the same physical pain as an ordinary human being. But mentally, he's not, because he's God in human form. But he has to become like a ordinary human being, so that also to show, there are a number of ways of looking at it, to show to human beings that, look, for example, this is the first time we know that the first human drop soul who became God realized has become the avatar, which we never knew. At least I don't know of any other treatises. We know only about the Dasha avatar, but they never defined what is the real avatar. Like, yeah, he's just an incarnation of God. But what he has done now in this particular era is to actually given us the scientific explanation that he was like one of us, like a drop soul, but he was the first one to win the self-realization lottery, and he was given the title avatar, and his function is to come again and again, 700 to 1400 years, and prepare humanity that the only purpose of creation is to know thyself. So there are many different interpretations, but I'm just giving one part of it. Jai Baba.
Yeah, I think I agree with all that you said, and I have only one additional point to make. the the concept of, again, I'm challenged by the word, by the long term liability that I've been disclosing, which is I don't know the definition of consciousness as per Baba. Okay, with that with that having been said, I will continue to describe what I want to describe. So when you say there is infinite consciousness and infinite unconsciousness, infinite when we say that as creation we are infinitely unconscious, that itself is confusing, right? So what do you mean by that? Because we have a degree of consciousness. We also, is the, as confirmed by the divine theme, the consciousness improves in quality and so on. But it is not the divine consciousness, right? So everything other than that is unconsciousness, right? So firstly,
Correct.
when you use the word, when Baba says infinite consciousness and infinite unconsciousness, it is the divine consciousness and the divine unconsciousness. And the divine unconsciousness is the absence or the 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 other aspect of divinity, the one that
The conscious realization.
correct. Yeah. But that zero is required to get to the one. The one is infinite consciousness. But to go through and get understanding of one is Leela, and the Leela has to be through zero, which is unconscious. I don't know if I'm making sense, right? So the word unconscious can be very confusing. Why are we saying we are unconscious? But this is my personal interpretation and understanding as of now.
Unconscious is basically that we are still conditioned by our material body.
Hmm.
Remember, we are spending sanskaras which we have taken from the animal kingdom, and we are living in the gross sphere of existence. We are controlled by the five physical sensations and the two mental sensations of thoughts and feelings. To able to transcend these seven sensations, five physical and two mental, you need the grace of the Guru. And before the grace of the Guru, you have to be prepared for it. And to be prepared for it, you had to go through ups and downs in life, many reincarnations, because we were totally absorbed in our own material body. So now we are going through a transition state where we now have the grace of Baba, who has given us the holy grail of knowledge. That is only the menu he has given, the framework, but the actual cooking has to be done by us. You know, that is, we have to make the effort. As Nisargadatta Maharaj said, one is eagerness and one is earnestness and sincerity. So now we have the knowledge, but just having knowledge is not good enough. That is only 1% inspiration. So Baba has inspired us now. So we do know that what we went through in our past lives and before we got to know about Baba, we were unconscious of this aspect. Now we have the confirmation and we are becoming conscious of it, but we are not conscious of it all the time because we are normal human beings, you know. So that is the whole challenge. And of course, Baba has also given us a solution not to worry about all the planes. Just go veiled and follow his, you know, postulates, the seven awakenings, how to love God, seven realities, and that's it. So the this is a whole game. Remember, Baba also, when he was the first drop soul, had to go through the same process as we did.
Yes.
So that is why it is actually, see, for example, when I was doing my spiritual shopping, I read Ramana around, everything made sense, but intellectually. So the point came even after reading Meher Baba, I had this thing. I said, like, first of all, Meher Baba is not saying anything different than all the avatars have said. And Buddha Sanskaras related to Meher Baba's Sanskaras. And this quote, which I've said earlier, man suffers from lust of the gross body, greed of the subtle body, anger of the mental body. Convert lust into love, greed into generosity, anger into compassion and tolerance. The point of the matter is that everybody knows the 10 commandments because it's all common sense. The question is why we are not able to practice it constantly, consistently. Again, we know it's about sanskaras, but we don't have a mentor. Okay. Now Baba has become the mentor. So I was at that transition point where I said to myself, he's not saying anything new. I knew all this, but nothing is happening to me. So I needed to have the grace of Baba, which 97 to 2009, after I went to Samadhi, the 20% doubt got dissolved. But even now, it's a struggle. So I think that this consciousness is always there. Okay, we all have Maha Chaitanya because we are human beings. But the
Chaitanya, not Mahachaitanya.
right,
Mahachaitanya is latent. Yeah.
all human beings have Maha Chaitanya, whether you are an aboriginal or whether you are, Ambani or Musk, right? So the aboriginal probably is more tuned with nature, and we are more tuned with the so-called AI economy. But we also have the privilege of knowing this aspect of it, that this is just a temporary thing, the artificial intelligence, the industrial economy, and all that stuff, right? So I think that is the unconscious and the conscious for the drop souls who are on the spiritual journey, or for all human beings. That is how I understand it.
I just got a quick insight. I agree with, again, what you said was beautiful. I just got one more insight to add. So, from the point of the whim, anything that goes through uh, the planes and even before the plane's creation is all in a state. Let's call as whatever you want to call it, right? So, this whatever you want to call it is unconscious, is to be described, or that whole set of experiences, that whole journey is through the journey of unconsciousness. But as Kama just pointed out, there is consciousness there also, right? So that's a little tricky, but just take it as it is, and let's move on. That's my point.
You
And
know,
now
you have to
let's
be,
get to,
I,
yeah,
Karthik, you have to
yeah,
be very
yeah.
careful
Hmm.
when you use the word conscious and consciousness.
Hmm.
Okay. If you look at it, you can do a chat GPT and ask the similarities and difference between consciousness, and conscience. So it's
Okay.
very interesting because it's very well defined. If you can do that right now, I think it will clarify how we use these terms in this context.
No,
Can you do
but the
that?
problem, no, the problem with that is it's not Baba's words. Unless you limit the body of knowledge to Baba's usage. Consciousness
Yes.
from an AI perspective, consciousness from a AI perspective or a what is AI perspective? An LLM is only going to use semantics, right? It's the best
Yes.
dictionary in the world. So if you use semantics, it can surely be confusing. So I don't want to go down that path if right now, but that's a good exercise. I will do that personally. Why I don't want to do it here is I don't want to confuse. Right? We are already trying to get something that's thing. But I think that's my take. But that's one homework I will do and come back with my findings personally. Last but not the least, Ashokji, your question. You have to
Maybe,
repeat your question, please.
yeah, my question was very simple. I mean, not very on the higher intellectual planes. So it's just that, if you take an analogy of a seesaw,
Hmm.
and we mortals are, say, on ground zero, and Baba is on 10, the highest of the high. So he comes down, you know, to give a lift, as Mamaji put it. He used the word lift. Yeah, I'm just putting that into my
Okay,
analogy.
it's more a comment. It's more a comment. I remember now. So you're trying to say it's more like Baba's coming to lift us,
Yes,
almost on the analogy of a seesaw, where he's giving a nudge, a push, some big,
a nudge.
some
Yes.
profound,
So,
some
so
very small, to all in creation through that seesaw effect. Yeah, that's a good.
yeah, I mean that's
Sorry.
my understanding. If I am uh, know, super simplifying it, or if I am, then it's my fault. But this is what I take away from this, that paragraph which we read. If you can also, if you want, don't, please read the paragraph again. With all this discussion, we should just understand and try to, and my second question is, how do we in our present life implement this?
There's nothing to implement. Baba is
Okay.
implementing. So you
And
you
Baba
you
has
follow
given
the
the no,
seven
no, no, no. You
postulates.
have to.
Yeah.
Yes. No, no, you're
There
right.
is nothing. So
Yeah.
there's
Hey,
nothing that
why
we
don't we read the full chapter, and then come back again?
Okay.
perfect. I think
Okay.
that makes it.
That makes sense. Thank you. Yeah.
Fine. So as an exercise, when I'm saying infinite unconsciousness, in your minds, just think creation. Okay, creation is not one; it's zero. Right. So just keep in mind creation whenever we encounter infinite unconsciousness, and then it will make
Okay.
it simpler.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
The drama of creation.
Okay.
The drama of creation is the pull between infinite consciousness and infinite unconsciousness. It is in this drama that we find ourselves caught in between. On the stage of the drama of creation, everyone and everything play their roles as actors, not knowing that they are actors. They are unconscious and in ignorance, and they become one with their role, and therefore they exhibit only ignorance, doing everything unconsciously. Infinite consciousness descends into infinite unconsciousness in the form of the avatar. The avatar becomes everyone and everything, but he knows this, and therefore, while he is in the creation of infinite unconsciousness, he expresses knowledge. This very expression of knowledge that is infinitely conscious diminishes ignorance at every level of consciousness in the infinite unconsciousness. Thus, there is a vast difference between the avatar's becoming of everyone and everything and the becoming of everything and everyone as everything and everyone. The avatar is infinite consciousness, and when he becomes everyone and everything, infinite consciousness merges with its own infinite unconsciousness. But one but when everything and everyone are becoming everything and everyone, the consciousness of everything and everyone is being absorbed by the infinite unconsciousness. Everyone and everything do not become what they actually are, which is drops of infinite consciousness. They remain what they are not, which is drops of infinite unconsciousness. I repeat, everyone and everything do not become what they actually are, which is drops of infinite consciousness. They remain what they are not, which is drops of infinite unconsciousness. Everyone and everything exist thereby out of ignorance. Therefore, their becoming is not becoming. They remain unconscious, but acting motivated by the very forces of ignorance, which are infinitely unconscious. All that is in the realm of creation. A pause here. We finished a little more than what we read the first time. So I think this reading was rather a little simpler than before, or it clarified a little more, I hope. Okay, so let me continue. To understand this more clearly, imagine that infinite consciousness is everything and infinite unconsciousness is nothing. The outcome of infinite consciousness is infinite everything, and the outcome of infinite unconsciousness is infinite nothingness. Everything is forever everything, and nothing is forever nothing. No matter how often or how many things the nothing becomes, it becomes nothing. Thus, what does everything and everyone become when it becomes everyone and everything? Nothing. Now, again, what is different in this para is the capitalization of the first letter of everything and nothing would have made it easier for us to understand. But I think we are familiar with these terms, so I hope everybody got it. Bhau continues. The perfect master is a drop of infinite unconsciousness that has become a drop of infinite consciousness. A drop of infinite consciousness is greater than the whole of the infinite unconsciousness. This drop, that is infinitely conscious, the perfect master, has the force of the oceanic infinite consciousness, and this drop's consciousness can wipe out all the forces of everything in the infinite unconsciousness. Now, this is perfect master. Remember, from this para, we are talking perfect master. A perfect master, while doing his work for the world, acts, but his role is extremely perfect. In other words, a perfect master knows exactly what role he is acting and what exactly is his role. A man who is a millionaire is in ignorance, playing the role of a millionaire in ignorance. When a perfect master plays the role of a millionaire, the impact is felt by the millionaires who are in ignorance through the perfect acting of the perfect master. The man in ignorance, despite playing the role of a millionaire, finds that his role is full of defects. Despite the man's ignorance, he cannot leave the stage because he is unconscious of what is really going on. This man must learn acting, and he can only learn it from a perfect master who is a perfect actor in the drama of creation. When the richest of the rich comes onto the stage, the avatar descends into the drama of creation. The false millionaire has to leave the stage because acting is now not necessary as the richest man is present. When the avatar descends into infinite unconsciousness and becomes everyone and everything, the acting of every level of consciousness is affected by his becoming of everyone and everything in the infinite unconsciousness. Every level of consciousness in the infinite unconsciousness depends upon the avatar for consciousness. And since he is the one who is conscious in the infinite unconsciousness, everyone and everything does what he ordains. It is through the avatar's infinite consciousness merging with infinite unconsciousness that every level of existence is altered. When infinite consciousness merges with infinite unconsciousness, every level of consciousness loses the sense of its existence. And when it loses the sense of its existence, it gets the avatar's push, which alters its existence. Okay, any thoughts, any comments? So it's basically bringing out the difference between the perfect master and the avatar, and the fact that the merging of infinite consciousness and unconsciousness happens when the avatar comes down, and there is a universal push to all of creation using the infinite consciousness that the avatar is, uh, which is pushed into all of creation. And also, he provides knowledge, infinite knowledge. He expresses infinite knowledge, to use Bhau's phrase. So,
Karthik,
yeah.
Jai Baba, can I ask you to read the last sentence again? And again, I mean, maybe I am relating it to my analogy. The word push is very significant there. Can you please read the last line, please?
When infinite consciousness merges with infinite unconsciousness, every level of consciousness loses the sense of its existence. And when it loses the sense of its existence, it gets the avatar's push from the other side of the seesaw, which alters its existence.
Perfect. Perfect.
So I added the seesaw in between.
This is, I'm perhaps simplifying it for my understanding. So, what?
Yeah. Okay. So I think if there's no other comments, we can move on to the next chapter.
Yes.
The human experience of his manifestation. The human experience of his manifestation. We find that the human level of consciousness that each person's face is different from every other, though there are millions of human beings in the world. The human form of each individual is the consolidated mold of the sanskaras of previous lives, and as each form has a different face, it shows that each one has different sanskaras. Therefore, the experience of each one differs from the other, though all are human beings. And as a result, despite the fact that we are at the human level of consciousness and will witness the manifestation of the avatar together, the experience of the manifestation will differ from one person to another according to the individual's sanskaras. The total manifestation will be witnessed by all levels of consciousness at the time of the universal push. At that time, humanity as a whole will awaken to follow the path toward truth. All levels of consciousness will receive a further evolutionary push, And in this way, the whole universe continues to evolve. The universal push given by the avatar will be the experiencing of his manifestation by all levels of consciousness. His manifestation will be felt most by human beings because the human mind has the most evolved consciousness, and it is the human mind alone that can feel him universally. Okay, I have one question. So, Baba is helping all the souls. Baba is going to manifest or is in the process of manifestation right now. So, will that be a perceptible universal manifestation? Let me explain what I'm saying. So, will everyone in the world hear of Meher Baba and know of Meher Baba in a real and literal sense? Or is it more in the planes that he's actually working to make this visible and available to all? I hope my question is not confusing further.
No,
So,
no,
what are
Jai
Jai,
your
Baba.
thoughts?
So first of all, we have to be very careful about interpreting Baba's statements.
Yes.
He's talking from, there are certain things which we can't just literally analyze. See, the manifestation happens to each one of us. Like, you don't have to wait for it. Like, for example, for us, he has opened our hearts and we have complete faith in Baba. So, the universal manifestation is something that can happen in many different ways. The people who are ready, who are waiting for the call, who are sincere, who are dedicated, and they are looking for the Messiah. In the Buddhist philosophy, in the Christian philosophy, we have the second coming of Christ and the Maitreya, the second coming of Buddha, which Baba himself said in the introduction to discourses that, he mentioned about when he was in high school and he was reading about the Buddha and he realized that's me. And so one has to be very careful about how we interpret the word, the universal manifestation. I think it will happen to different people in different ways. And of course, we know that it takes 700 to 100 years for the avatar or perfect masters to be publicly recognized. So I think in very simple terms, just like Shirdi Sai Baba got recognized in 1918, 1990, which took about 70 years because he dropped his body in 1918. Similarly, now Ramana Maharshi is now the new flavor. The whole Andhra crowd is, state is coming to Tiruvannamalai and all that stuff. And that was 1950. And 70 years later, 2020. So that what do you call variable or what we call as the spiritual constant is happening. So and I think Adi Irani or somebody said that if the avatar comes after 1400 years, it his manifestation will be his presence will be there for 200 years. The Nirguna Nirakar, infinite, the infinite consciousness will be available in its impersonal form. But I think Baba himself mentioned that I'll be coming back in 700 years. So we can rest be assured that hopefully by 2040 or 50, the whole world will directly or indirectly come to know about him. Hey, Baba.
Yeah, yeah. My question was only whether it's direct or indirect. So I agree it will be direct and indirect and not
Yeah.
and at that level.
Yes.
Jai
Namita
Baba.
ji, you were saying something. Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't understand many of these words, but what I feel, I'm just going to speak it out. Uh, right now it is a special Baba club. Only some of us know about him, and we feel that we are the chosen ones. So in my head, I feel that there are certain attributes or certain karmic sanskaric balance which needs to be of a certain number to make it, and then Baba calls you by invitation. um, So we are in an exclusive Baba club, and that is because we've done some good karma or we have a good heart. So yeah, the others can join once they have done, done their numbers. Right now, we are the chosen ones. Thank you, Jai Baba.
Uh,
Okay.
if I can mention one phrase, I think that might summarize or at least it can relate to what we read. That is different strokes for different folks, depending on your sanskaras.
Yeah. So I'm in the same spot, Namita ji. I don't understand all the terms, but I'm just making my own interpretations. So you're not far from you're doing well. Is all I'm saying. Okay.
Uh,
Thank you so much.
Karthik, if I may say,
Yeah,
we all are in the same spot, a little
we are
higher or lower, but
diamonds in the rough.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
still
But
learning.
diamonds in the
I'm
rough.
happy you can call us diamonds. That's not a bad starting point.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
Nomita ji
yeah.
brings in a lot of optimism into this.
Thank you very much, brother. You are my inspiration. Jai Baba to that.
Right.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so let's get to the next one as we await whether it's 70 years, whether it's 100 years, whether it's as public as it can get. Will it be bigger than Baba in Super Bowl or Baba being on? We'll find out. So as we find out and as we go through that waiting with anticipation, let's go on and get to the next chapter.
Can
Right?
I read?
The next. Oh yeah. Okay. Go ahead.
But whenever you want to put some, anybody has comments, please mention because uh, there's collective brainstorming happening as we
Yes.
Yes, sir.
the winding and unwinding of sanskaras. The winding process of sanskaras start at the beginning of each one's entry into creation as stone, and this winding process is necessary for the evolution of the individual's consciousness. The winding process remains natural from the stone through the animal kingdoms. The process becomes unnatural at the human level of consciousness because human beings do so many things which are not required for the progress of their individual consciousness. What is the purport of the last line? Can I read
Hold
ahead?
on. Yeah. Yeah. So I think this is a very interesting way of understanding and relating to unnatural sanskaras. He says this process becomes unnatural at the human level of consciousness because human beings do so many things which are not required for the progress of their individual consciousness. So, if I were to interpret this, a plant or an animal just goes through what it's programmed to do without application of its mind and doesn't progress or try to think beyond its framework. Whereas, thanks to the evolution of consciousness in the human mind and the possibilities that come with that, the human mind is the most innovative and tries to think it is limitless. It's not limitless in the Baba sense, but other than the Baba sense, it explores all facets and it does so many things which are not required. So when you say which are not required, what is the reason for the human birth? The human birth is, or what is the reason we are in creation? We are only here to go towards God realization. So towards that purpose, if even things that are not helping that purpose, we keep doing. That is the unnatural sanskaras. A very nice way of understanding that. That's all I wanted to comment.
Jay Baba.
Okay, Baba.
Another way of putting it is that
See, let me finish. See, the thing is that we are human form, full and complete consciousness, Maha Chaitanya. but is covered by a layer of organic sanskaras, natural sanskaras. You got to remove those sanskaras to know thyself, aham brahmasmi. So the divine theme is the script. The divine script implies that in the human form, these sanskaras that we have now gathered have to be now dissolved. But before dissolution, which is unwinding sanskaras, we are talking about spending sanskaras. That is what it means. Human beings do so many things which are not required for the progress of their individual consciousness. See, there is a paradox out here. What does it mean? Progress of their individual consciousness. The individual consciousness is already Maha Chaitanya, but it is not pure and clear, right? It is covered by a layer of sanskaras. So the progress is to go through that. I mean, to attain that infinite consciousness, that pure Maha Chaitanya, to know itself, it has to first spend these sanskaras in the human form. So you have to experience the lust, greed, and anger which we have programmed during the animal kingdom, during evolution of consciousness. Now that has to be experienced in the human form, because which we call spending sanskaras, right? And then you reach a tipping point where you realize that your progress is not positive, because you're reacting to your own sensations of your body. That is why vipassana practice is amazing, So it goes right to the bottom, the physical sensations, five physical sensations, and the two mental sensations and thoughts and feelings are the barrier to recognize your own unique Mahachaitanya, superconsciousness, which you already are. All the 8
Yeah.
billion people, 8.5 billion people have Mahachaitanya. So this is a game. That is why I think that people should not get too serious about their life and say like, oh my God, what's happening? If you take it as a game and a play, we are all player actors, because we go to sleep in the night, because that is much more real than this waking state, because you go into ananda bliss, but we are unconscious of it. But the beauty is, once you recognize that this waking state is also a dream, because we are identifying with our body, the false identification with the body. Again, this is man God part 2. What is disastrous for the soul consciousness is not being conscious of creation, but consciousness gets caught up in creation, the soul's consciousness. And what is disastrous for the soul or soul consciousness is not being conscious of the material body, gross body, subtle body, mental body, but the soul consciousness gets identified with the body. I am Tendulkar, gross body. I am Rahman, the musician. I am Einstein, the mental body. So, unless we go through the spending of sanskaras and reach a tipping point, and then with the grace of Baba, then you start doing unwinding of sanskaras. That is why in Vipassana, the whole practice is observe, don't react to pleasant sensations, observe, don't react to unpleasant sensations, observe, don't react to no sensations. I call it ODR puns. But behind that is the most important law. The universal law of nature is impermanence. Change is the only important constant. So the second part of Vipassana, called the Satipatthana Suttas, tells you that you have to be alert about the impermanence of sensations, both physical and mental. And that is where your intelligent action comes. With the grace of the guru, you have to start practicing, which is we call as unwinding sanskaras. So this last line is about spending sanskaras. Jai Baba.
Okay, let's continue. Hello, Ashok.
Yeah, yeah. So if you put it very simply, we have thoughts, words, and deeds, which are we have probably 70,000-80,000 thoughts, words, and deeds. So we just focus our activities towards the goal. I mean, and to try to remove the wheat from the chaff and do what is uh, you know leading us to the path of God realization is what comes out from what we read in the previous paragraph. Very
Jai
simply,
Baba, Jai Baba, as we read the universal prayer every day, we are brought to the focal point of knowing that lust, greed, and anger are the are the covering that are deterring us from reaching the goal of being one with Baba. So that reminder in his prayer, he has given us a antidote for what we don't know how to handle. So
Perfect.
yeah, thank you, Jai
So
Baba.
pertinent. So pertinent. Yes.
yes, yes.
So
Hey,
so
Baba, uh,
specific because
add, sorry,
yeah,
before I forget, that this acronym LAG, LAG, lust, anger, and greed. That's what
yeah.
brings us.
That's what you have to work on, okay?
Yeah, yeah.
Jai Baba.
Yeah.
आगे
Okay.
चलो.
Karthik, you were saying something. Sorry.
No, no, you have to read. Or shall I?
Oh, wait, I'll read. I'll read. I thought your comment is coming up. So, consciousness is fully evolved in the human form, and there is nothing required for furthering the evolution of the individual. Now, what happens is that the human consciousness of every individual becomes stuck because of the unnatural winding of sanskaras. Can I read this again? This line. It's consciousness is fully involved in the human form, and there is nothing required for furthering the evolution of the individual. Now, what happens is that the human consciousness of every individual becomes stuck because of the unwinding, sorry, because of the unnatural winding of sanskaras. This happens because every individual mind is loaded with the impression of previous lives while in different human forms, and while spending those sanskaras, mind becomes involved in many things that have nothing to do with the progress of the consciousness toward the goal. In this way, the once natural winding and unwinding of sanskaras becomes unnatural, so it becomes extremely difficult to be free from the binding of unnatural winding because these unnatural sanskaras do not unwind.
What are the unnatural sanskaras?
So if you go by what we read in the last two paragraphs, everything that does not further your journey on the path towards Mahachaitanya, towards God realization, is a unnatural sanskara. So every thought, word, and deed, every sanskara that is not contributing to us getting closer to God is actually an unnatural sanskara. Of course, keep away the basic natural sanskaras. You have to eat, you have to sleep, you have to do the basic stuff. Other than that, everything else is unnatural, and that is the toughest one to crack because you're not. I mean, Bhau is saying you cannot uh, unwind natural sanskaras.
I have one point
Jai
here.
Baba, Jai Baba, the technical definition is, as per discourses, organic natural sanskaras is the winding of sanskaras during evolution of consciousness. When you reach the human form, you are reacting to those natural sanskaras and creating inorganic, unnatural sanskaras,
Sanskaras.
which we call spending sanskaras. So that is the technical definition. Jai Baba.
Thank you. Perfect. Ashish,
Yeah, it's some different question here, different point,
sure.
maybe not that much related. So yeah, it's definitely difficult, right? It's very difficult. But there are like many human beings in the world, right? Who have out of the box talented, like either it's a singer, either musician, cricketer, actor, scientist, right? So they stuck into their life, right? And I don't think that's their mistake, because they're too much good into their field, and they might be not thinking too much about spirituality. Might be they're too much busy. Virat Kohli is too much busy in playing cricket, right? So in that case, means, we are reading the books, or we are going through this phase, maybe. So the difference between, suppose, myself and some other guy, maybe Karthik is very talented person, right? He has his, it's like he has his own world, but you're doing spirituality also. But there are many people in the world, they're too much busy. Elon Musk is too busy, right? So what do you think about those people, actually, about the spirituality, where they are this kind of souls in the universe?
They must have
And
well to be able to be on top of the pack in whatever they are doing. Karma and doing it properly is also spirituality, and towards being in the moment, doing your very best in the craft you have been best out on. How much I understand from Baba is also prayer, is also spirituality. You don't need to necessarily sit read a book, but if you are doing your very best with the body Baba has given you and you excel, that is also meditation, spirituality in its own way. That's my take, Jai Baba. Thank you.
So, without prejudice to any of the individuals, and I agree with what Namita ji said also, Baba has said that very clearly. But to specifically respond to Ashish, so without any prejudice to any of the people mentioned in your question, yeah,
yeah.
so with including myself, so the individual progress that one achieves in the material world is absolutely irrelevant, and that's my understanding. Is absolutely irrelevant and uh, not congruent with the spiritual progress. So somebody may have a lot of material success and progress in a particular way, to a point where somebody becomes a famous actress, somebody
No,
becomes a
no.
famous businessman.
I was not talking about the success. I was talking about the talent, right? I was talking about the
Yeah,
talent,
so
and
it
based
could
on
be
that
art,
talent,
it could be art,
yeah,
it could be
yes. So
if somebody is
based on
very
that
good with.
talent,
Hmm,
yes, based on the talent, he's too much busy in that work, right? Too much
correct,
busy. Any
correct.
cricketer is
No,
Hmm.
I
doing a
don't think
lot.
so. I think that's a wrong notion. We can't judge people just because of their external behavior. Okay.
No, no,
The
we are not
point of
judging here.
no,
So
no,
let
not
let
judging.
let
The point of
huh,
the matter is just because somebody is, successful, we think he's
X or
totally
Y.
engrossed in his thing.
We don't know about his
In the
spiritual stuff.
in the macro picture, remember, all of us have come with a prescripted, predetermined, predestined script in the big picture. The people you are born to, who are our siblings, what kind of job you have, that is already pre-designed. The only thing we are doing is in the micro approach. Now, part of our process is basically that it was predestined that we were going to meet Baba. Now, the question is there is a business plan, you make projections, but the end of the year, the actuals are going to be different from the projections. We all know that in the material world. The same thing happens with the so called spirituality, right? Like they say that when we drop our body and go into the subtle, semi subtle world, we see our whole life like a film from start to beginning. And we also evaluate what was the game plan and what did we actualize. And this is how this whole reincarnation cycle is going. So I think that it's more important for us to know ourselves and understand what are the challenges we are facing rather than looking outside and seeing. Yes, I think it's a good academic observation. You learn from other people's mistakes. I call the opium theory, opium, other people's money and other people's mistakes, before you start any entrepreneurship. But like the Rajat Gupta Rajaratnam syndrome, what did it tell you? Like you could be the top of your class in the material world, all the CEOs, all the country heads, but you still succumb to your own lust, greed, anger, or what I call as low self esteem. So I think that everybody, directly or indirectly, are teachers for us. in that way. That is how I look at it, you know. That's my interpretation.
Yeah.
Jai Baba.
Okay. Yeah, Baba.
Okay. I hope Ashish got his answer, but yeah,
Yeah, yeah. I just raised it.
sure, sure. No problem.
Jai Baba, to continue reading, to keep the body healthy, food is necessary. And if anyone eats food necessary for the body's health, the sanskaras produced by the act of eating are natural. But if anyone commits suicide or murders or does some sexual perversion, the sanskaras produced by such acts are unnatural. These unnatural sanskaras lie in the mind like, what's that? Sorry, like
Notes.
these knots are unnatural impression of unnatural actions, and the trading of such impressions are very firm, and the binding of such impressions are very firm. These knots are tight inside the individual's mind. The knot of unnatural impressions becomes so firm and tight that unwinding simply becomes impossible. For example, if one commits suicide, one is stuck in the astral form for centuries, and if one commits murder, one is stuck in the hell state for a long, long time. Sanskaras must be spent in human consciousness. If the individual's sanskaras are spent in a natural way, then the process of spending is short. Therefore, the individual can fulfill what is required to prepare for his involution. But when the sanskaras are spent in unnatural way,
Jai Baba.
sorry, can I just
Sorry.
finish? I'll just finish this line and then. Uh,
All right, sure.
but when the sanskaras are spent in unnatural ways, then the process of spending becomes long and complicated, and it becomes virtually impossible to untie the knots of unnatural binding. So, Karthik, I think there's some comments, or Namita ji, you want to say something?
Yeah, yeah, please.
Yeah, Jai Baba. They say the sanskaras attached to food, they're like normal sanskaras. Now, food is also of many types, like non-vegetarian food. What does Baba say about that? Should we drop it? Should we have I mean, does it complicate our sanskaras to eat meat? Or if we think of it as nutrition and protein going into it, it had anyway passed away before. Now I'm just making it palatable for myself. I enjoy doing this. Is If we drop eating meat, are we on a better path to clean our sanskaras? That's my question. Thank you. Jai Baba.
Anybody wants to answer that? So I think it's all personal. So for someone that should not it may help, for someone it may not. So that's the way I have reconciled with that idea. So in the journey, follow your intuition and then go with that. But Baba has said vegetarian food is better. That's it. But he has not stopped many people from eating. So it's personal to each one's sanskaric makeup and
So
the
it's not a short way to hell. It's
yes,
it
it's not. It's
I
not.
think it
But
must be
then
just if I think it must be like if I'm just eating as a food, not as a too much.
greed.
Some people eat the non-vegetarian with very great, right? Oh wow, it's a non-veg, right? I think it should be only food. If you're eating it as just food, should be fine. That's what I think.
I see. Okay, sure.
I
Thank
think
you.
yeah. Maybe people living in the Konkan or Goa, right? For them, it's just normal to eating the fish. So probably,
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
Baba. Thank you.
just nutrition. I get your point now, Ashish. So for some, it's they don't have any other access to. Why do the coastal Brahmins eat fish? Because there was no other easily available protein and nutrition, right? So they
right, right.
developed that diet over time. But predominantly,
Same for
it's
Kashmiri Brahmins
accepted,
also. Yeah.
accepted. But even Singapore has a full available diet today. So what applied hundreds of years back need not apply now. But like I said, it's just exactly what you feel, and I think we leave
Yeah.
it at that.
Thank
What
you, Jeb.
yours? Yeah, Jai Baba.
So we can say that don't eat with any preconceived notions. Anyway, just on a lighter side.
On the
But
lighter
what
side,
what
my name is Nomita.
but,
Nomita, which means
but what if I
technically
eat
I'm
misal
not eating.
misal pav? What if I eat a misal pav with very greed? Is that okay?
Exactly. That's also the equally problem, right? So
Yeah,
it's your attitude and application of the principles of the true values of what you see around you and what you eat and what you experience. That makes the difference, right? So if Missile Pav is a matter of greed for you. It's a craving, and you're not able to get over it. That itself is a problem compared to you eating eggs or meats or fishes or whatever, right? So
yeah,
it's very, very how your sanskaric makeup is.
Essentially, you cannot lust over food. You have to
Anything,
eat
yeah,
it.
food.
Yeah, so that's basically what you have to avoid. Like you don't drool. अब मैं इस animal को खाने वाला हूँ and you feel so happy. That wouldn't be good. Just eat it as food and then Baba knows what to do. Yeah, Baba.
We
Yeah,
can
Bob.
just put one line. If Nomitaji, excess of anything should be avoided. That's all.
आज का दिन छोड़ के हैं.
Yes, today is Sunday, so you enjoy yourself. Have the meal you want, so without any feeling that you violated any laws. I would say basic laws and principles. नहीं नहीं बोलते कि आप ये खाओ वो मत खाओ. Religion को भी अपना साइड रखते हैं, but as long as it doesn't enhance your uh, thoughts of lust, greed, and anger, if you just eat it as nutrition, I think it's okay. This is my take, but I'll continue reading because we are sort of getting into nutrition and and its effects. Uh, the Jay Baba, the avatar works keep the winding and unwinding process in a natural state. If this help was not rendered by the avatar to humanity, it would be virtually impossible for human beings to unwind their gross sanskaras and thereby enter the planes of involution. Thus, during the avatar's manifestation, human consciousness, I think, consciousness in the winding and unwinding of sanskaras is brought back into a natural state. Such work is unimaginable because the avatar has to achieve the natural state in every individual human mind. Wow, that's a lot of work. For the furtherance, of the individual's own evolution or involution, natural sanskaras are essential for one's progress. Natural sanskaras are those impressions which are absolutely essential for the consciousness to evolve and involve. Okay. For example, one must eat to live, So one can earn a livelihood, but one does not have to cheat or steal or murder to live. It it is not during the process of evolution that one takes on unnatural sanskaras. It is in the human form. Human beings collect those sanskaras not necessary for the progress of their consciousness. Such sanskaras are called unnatural because they have nothing to do with the real purpose of creation. Kartik, although you know the last line, how do we differentiate what sanskaras are essential, and it takes it further to the in the path, and what are to be dropped or avoided, or you know, just neglected? Can anybody throw some light on this?
So I think it's by application of all the postulates you'll figure out, and there's no. So let me put it this way: for someone, what is unnatural sanskara? It may be necessary because he has to exhaust that in this work, right? But as minimal as you can think, speak, and act on sanskaras that are not helping you in your progress, in your intent and progress towards God, are unnatural sanskaras, which are useless. So that's all. That's the way I would react to that.
My response is very good thought, and I think the minimalist approach is
Ideal.
uh, ideal. Yes. So
Yeah.
because excess of anything, excess
So
of eating, or excess of drinking water, or any beverage is bad for the health and also for the progress on the spiritual path.
I would just call upon the example of what every religion suggests, yeah, in connection with uh, progress towards God, right? All of them have some sort of monastic, ascetic life where there is renunciation of all of the non-basic necessities, right? So that there's a tale there. There's a hint there. That's all we need to do.
Yeah, yeah. For example, there are the 10 commandments or whatever postulates. Yeah, very right, nicely put. Yes, there's food for thought
Yeah.
in that.
Yes. Okay. There's just page and a half. So let's finish this.
I'll finish.
Yeah.
Uh, You want to read? Okay. Anybody else wants to read, please.
Okay. I will read. I'll finish this page and a half. Uh, as a further example, suppose one decides to go on a pilgrimage to India. The way there is by plane. But if one decides not to take the trip straight through and decides to sightsee in London or Paris, he will not be able to reach India for some time. Because of sightseeing, he gets more involved in these cities than involved in the purpose of the trip. If he gets entangled in these cities, he could forget his intended purpose, which was a pilgrimage to India. So, our purpose in life is God realization. If we're doing anything else, we're basically doing London and Paris, right? That's all. So, we're just getting distracted. Continuing, the sanskaras collected while sightseeing represent unnatural sanskaras because these sanskaras were not required to reach his goal, India. These sanskaras have nothing to do with India, which represents his destination. In human form, such things as this happen again and again, and it is because of these unnatural sanskaras that the journey towards God becomes very, very long. And because of the complications that the unnatural sanskaras produce, it becomes always more and more difficult for one to reach the divine destination. The path to God is straight like a rod. One has to travel straight from one end of the rod to reach the other end. If one has natural sanskaras, he follows the force which propels him on his journey, and so he reaches the other end soon. But if one has unnatural sanskaras, he cannot help but zigzag his way, and he inevitably remains stuck in the same place. These unnatural sanskaras are like a rope that wraps itself tighter and tighter around the same spot, and one cannot continue his progress along the length of the rod. The natural sanskaras are also like a rope, but they wrap progressively around and around the rod, reaching further and further towards the end. So if you visualize a rod, so if the natural sanskaras are just one layer of the rope on the rod, so as you finish one winding, you go to the next space on the rod and keep going, and hence you're making progress from one end of the rod to the other end of the rod. If you're winding unnatural sanskaras, you're basically putting the rope on the rope, on the rope, on the rope, and making it fatter and not moving towards the other end of the rod, which is the uh, point, which is the ideal, right? So I think that analogy is nice. In the gross world, physical actions are necessary. In the subtle and mental world, subtle and mental actions are necessary. Physical actions produce gross impressions, and if the physical actions are not natural but are unnatural, then one gets very firmly bound in the gross world. One is stuck in the gross world, and it becomes virtually impossible for that person to progress towards the subtle and mental worlds. When the avatar comes as a man, it is in order to wipe out these unnatural impressions, and he wipes out these impressions by severing them. Since these unnatural impressions have been produced by physical actions, the avatar also has to perform physical actions to annihilate them. Annihilation of unnatural sanskaras is his physical work in the gross world, and it is only when these unnatural knots of human consciousness are severed that we see he has come with a sword. And the mental planes, the avatar does not have to exert. It is only for the gross world that he must exert, and he suffers in order to cut through the unnaturalness in human consciousness. When his sword severs, it severs through to the root. The avatar cuts through all the unnaturalness in the world and gradually makes a path that becomes clear and natural for mankind to follow. These unnatural sanskaras are called the sins of the world because they are obstructions to the path of truth. The natural sanskaras are called the seeds of destiny because they are what is necessary and essential for making the journey towards God. These unnatural sanskaras are obstructions in human consciousness in approaching the path of truth, and because of them, little progress in consciousness is ever made until the sword of truth has severed the knots. So once you realize, and also you get the help from the avatar with his sword, he uproots these unnatural sanskaras from the very root, right? But I think if you are not yet in the path, even though you get the push, you might be creating newer and newer unnatural sanskaras, winding them, and then taking a longer time, right? Interesting. Any comments before we
Yeah,
wrap up for the
sure.
day?
Yeah. So what comes out to me is that the how to live life is Baba has given in the discourses. So I think how to uh, you know create more of or less of unnatural sanskaras. The prescription is there in discourses.
Absolutely.
Prescription is action.
Sorry.
Prescription is action.
Yes,
We
prescription. Of
Intelligent,
course.
intelligent action.
Yeah, intelligent. You
Intelligent.
have to be mindful of what doesn't serve you. Don't get
Yeah.
carried
Absolutely.
away. Yeah.
Absolutely, Namita ji. The doctor will give you the prescription, but you have to take the medicine. You have to do what he says, whether it's
Yeah.
exercise or prescription or, I mean, he'll just give you the guidance map or a route map, but you have to walk the journey.
Yes. Thank you.
But enjoy the fish and
Doctor,
meat this afternoon. No meat.
Yes. No, Fisha is not written there. No, Mita is okay.
Okay, good. Yeah, yeah, Kama. Or somebody else was saying something.
yeah, yeah. I was saying that to stop creating unnatural sanskaras, we have the Baba's postulates, the seven
Yeah,
awakenings.
perfect. Yes.
So that is the knowledge part, 1%, right? Knowledge we have because you can't cook unless you know how to cook it. And Baba has given us how to stop creating unnatural sanskaras, like as Namita said about the prayer of repentance. And that is the practical aspect, karma yoga, because we are all about action of thoughts, words, and deeds in the waking state. And then how do you, so when you stop creating unnatural sanskaras, that is the intelligent inaction part, right? And then the intelligent action is not reacting, they kind of go both hand in hand, intelligent inaction. And as we know from discourses, intelligent inaction is the transition period or the period between unintelligent action and intelligent action, because unintelligent action is spending sanskaras, intelligent action is unwinding sanskaras where you don't react. So the transition state, intelligent inaction, is when you read all these Baba literature and now trying to, use that in our day-to-day life. So I think that is where we stop creating unnatural sanskaras. And I think Karthik also merely mentioned, right? So basically, in the human form, before the grace of the Guru, we have been spending sanskaras and created a lot of these unnatural sanskaras. So we are now dissolving these unnatural sanskaras, hopefully, but then the natural sanskaras are still there because that is only the grace of the Guru can help to eliminate that. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba, thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you for a lovely session this morning. Thank you all. Thank you, Baba. And may you all have a great week ahead and a great meaty meal later this afternoon.
Jai Baba.
Avtar Meher Baba ki jai.
Jai Baba, I just wanted
Hey,
to
Bob.
share something I heard in one of the other groups. They
Sure.
say when you are doing good, to gain brownie points, it is as negative as kind of doing bad stuff. But when you are doing stuff for people, driven by love and with a desire of getting nothing in return, that is where Baba resides. That stayed with
Yes.
me this week, and I just wanted to share. Thank you very much, Jai Baba.
Selfness in all. You operate from the feeling of selfness in all. You move from selfishness to that, and there you
Yes,
dissolve the ego, and the ego does not have any role when you do it with true love for the other person. Yeah, perfect, perfect.
yes.
On that note, let's try to do.
Selfishness,
Example, your
the
Puna thing.
selfishness to selflessness, then selfness. What she was talking about
Correct.
is
Yes.
the selflessness is, as Baba said, is like wearing golden chains,
Correct.
and being selfish is iron chains. They are part of the same opposites of duality. But again, that is a transition state. From selfishness, you can't go straight to selfness. You have to go through this transition of selflessness where you consciously or unconsciously thinking of brownie points. And then, with the grace of Baba, stop expecting anything and do what we call, what Baba says, selfless service, right? Jai
Absolutely.
Baba.
Yes, Jai Baba. Thank
Beautiful.
you.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Everybody have a great day and week ahead. Avtar Meher Baba ki jai.
Hey.